afternoon and good morning, Hector. And how are you today?
Fine, Paul. Nice to see you again.
It has been a long time. And for the benefit of the audience, Hector was the first ever person I spoke to back in 2020, I think it was, regarding overseas. And he was the real proof regarding the energy experts and reaching out. So I'm really proud to have you on this podcast today, Hector, and it means a lot to me that I've actually managed to get you on here today. So thank you very much for joining us.
Now, for me, it's a pleasure, Paul. You know that that time when we got that first call, we dreamed together in order to have a energy management managers experts that can share information, knowledge, and take advantage of the experience that everybody have in order to improve not just our knowledge but the projects that we were doing at that time. So I can see now that you have been materializing this part, and I am very proud to be a little part of it.
Yes. Well, you, for the point of the podcast, you was the start and you were the finish. So it's really great. So Hector, I've known you for many years now via our LinkedIn experiences, our Zoom calls. So I know a lot about you. But for the benefit of our audience today, can you give us your background and maybe your origin story to how you started to get into energy management?
Well, the trying to make a long story short, I graduate from the Universidad del Valle de México as a computer engineer. So I got an offer to be an IBM scholarship program member, and I dedicate part of my time supporting the point of sales platform. Then I've moved to Sanborns, that it's a store chain very peculiar here in Mexico because it's a mixture into a convenience store, restaurant, pharmacy, and some other services. In Sanborns, I implemented a retail system. After that, I moved to Coca-Cola, in where I spent practically 25 years working and dedicated to the information technology stuff, analysis of data, communication, IT operations, development, and implementation of projects. I have the opportunity as well to be into some technology innovation programs. How can we, in that time, be some accelerator of some startups that had innovations or projects, very interesting projects that were related with Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I can say, Paul, that I was in my tenure in Coca-Cola, the opportunity to have two special assignments that changed my life. The first one was when I was assigned to the year 2000 project. Coca-Cola had the concern that not all of their plants all over the world were prepared to move to the year 2000. By previous tests we did in that time to the plants, to the computer plants, to the PLCs, into the production lines, and as well to the laboratory equipment, we noticed that we realized that some equipment weren't prepared to move from 1999 to the year 2000. So it was a very important task force in order to change the equipment or to update the equipment that was not compliant. So in that part, I had the opportunity to understand how a bottling plant worked, and this changed my point of view of the operations from the industrial side perspective. The other assignment was when I as well be assigned to the operations business area, in which I had the opportunity to launch a product, to be in the market, smelling how the things in terms of business were implemented. So those points help me to understand that not just technology was involved in a good operation. You need to understand very well how the client, your client work. So when I was in Coca-Cola and decided to left, we founded the digital conference company, and the idea, together with my partner Jaime, was to put together our experience in order to help our clients to be more efficient, to reduce their operation cost. And that's why we get into the energy management world. Maybe, Paul, everything has been told regarding the energy management, but all days, without exception, we are learning and learning more things that help us in order to understand our client, to understand how can we help them to reduce their consumption lines.
Yeah. Hector, let me go back a little bit, because I didn't realize you did the Millennium process with Coca-Cola. And I was heavily involved with various projects regarding 2000 and making sure a lot of these systems went from 1999 to 2000. So I'm intrigued. The size of that organization, Coca-Cola, was there people like yourself sitting there December 31st, 1999, 59 minutes past 11, waiting for that to go over? Was they expecting many systems to fail?
Yeah, the concern was very big, because Coca-Cola, as I told you before, launched a task force in order to define project leaders in every single country dedicated to work with the bottlers, because the Coca-Cola business model is quite different from other bottling companies. Coca-Cola just sell the concentrate and monitor and support the bottlers' operations in terms of marketing, in terms of communications, in terms of plants operations and quality standards. So the real work is into the bottling groups world. And in that case, I was assigned to go all over the country in order to spread and make an awareness about the importance to make the test in every single asset that was electronically prepared. So the task was a very big and difficult task, because first of all, you needed to convince the top management of doing this and provide in a cascade way order to understand the importance and to help Coca-Cola to provide this information and to execute the test in every single plant. In that time, Coca-Cola Mexico had 87 plants in the country.
Wow. I know it's a significant area for Coca-Cola. How many items or assets were there that was identified that could be impacted by Y2K?
Well, it's a little hard to say it because the plant size was quite different one to other, but I can say that in average, about, I can say between 500 to 800 items that we need to test.
Right, significant then. So, Hector, what were the challenges at that time? Sort of going into your energy management roles and understanding businesses now. What do you find your challenges are now within that industry? What you're learning?
Well, maybe my first idea to make energy management was because I knew the plant's operation, and in that case, Coca-Cola is very concerned about efficiencies, about how to be greener. So I realized with my, let's say, my few experience in that case in terms of plant operations, that there were some opportunities in order to be more efficient in terms of energy consumption. So in that time, my knowledge about energy management was practically new, but something in my mind keep through the years in order to see how can I help not just that plants, but all over the industries, no matter if it's a hotel, if it's a store, or if it's a restaurant. Every single business has opportunities in order to be more efficient.
Yeah. And so you've just touched on this. You don't just look at industrial organizations. You look at hotels, and I know you've done a lot of work in the leisure sector in fairs as such, haven't you? Not fun fairs, but attraction parks in Mexico.
Yes, well, I can say that life have took us for different ways. We have been involved in energy management projects with industry, energy management projects for restaurants, as well as attractions parks in the south part of Mexico City. And as I told you, every single business has opportunities, sorry, that in order to make efficiencies. In the case of parks, as well, one of the common things that we found in these different business areas is that, number one, workers are not prepared to have good habits in terms of consumption. Sometimes image of the business is more important than waste. Mm-hmm. And the other is that as energy is invisible, you cannot realize how you are spending and your money in terms of the consumption you are doing. And the last is everybody talks about be green, about sustainability, but very few really do something about it. So that are the biggest challenge we found in that kind of projects.
Yeah. Hector, based on the fact that your background's IT, technology and systems, what is your approach? How do you balance that with an organization? Because it isn't all about the technology and the systems. You mentioned just now the people. How do you balance the two regarding your approach?
Wow, it's a very good question, Paul, because when I left Coca-Cola, I realized that out the Coca-Cola, in the real world, I was just one more. So I have to reinvent myself together with Jaime in order to understand the energy management logic that is not quite different from developing an app. And why I say that? Because when you understand how your client operates or what the requirement is, the technology is just the enabler in order to become the process more efficient. I mean that from my perspective, technology doesn't matter if it's just computer, talking about computers, of is sensoring, talking about all the energy management technology behind. When you understand how your client operates, how they produce, how they do things, the technology just helps you in order to get a very good solution to your client in order to be more efficient or lowering cost of the operation.
Yeah. And again, you've got challenges there with the people. Now, for me, when we're implementing technologies or there's technologies in place, it's important that we train the people to use that correctly. So there's training, there's awareness. Because if these guys aren't trained and they're not aware of the system, very quickly those systems start to go out of control, don't they? If we looked at a simple BMS or a software package, we need to provide support around that, don't we? It's not just about the system. Let's not put a system in and walk away from it. We have to align that with the people. And do you find there's a big gap sometimes between the two?
Well, sometimes, Paul, we make the mistake to just think in the technical solution, but behind the technical solution, there is something very important, that is the service.
Yeah.
And you cannot provide just hardware boxes, just cables, just a platform. When you deliver a solution, you need to think that after implementing the solution, in the daily operation, you need to consider the support. Why? Because your client is in the way on this curve of learning in which they are getting the knowledge. Yeah. Second, because all the enterprises are living aliens that are continuously changing and changing and changing. So the solution that you implement one day, sometimes 2 months later, is not exactly the one that they need. So you need to keep making some adjustments in the ongoing operation.
So Hector, Sorry,
no,
Hector.
worry, don't worry. Go ahead, go ahead.
What was that last point?
Well, I just wanted to remark that service is try to be close with your client, trying to be together with the client, shoulder to shoulder, understanding and sharing the knowledge, but as well help them to understand how they can improve, even improve the solution that you already implemented with them.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And I like the way that because I find sometimes you're both learning. You're both learning the same issues together, and I think that works really well when you're working side by side. Hey, tell us what your drivers are regarding energy management. Do you have drivers? Things that make you go to work every day?
Well, you have to try to get a balance between the things that you need to do in the daily basis and the projects that you have, and obviously this challenge that implies to understand every single client operation. It's not the same clearly how an attraction park works against how a hotel works. So this let's say this understanding of the operation in every single client implies a challenge, because sometimes the knowledge that you are receiving continuously in your mind mix everything together, and sometimes you are in your mind with a mess. So the important thing is to categorize, to classify the information that you are getting continuously in order to keep the streamline oriented to the solution for every single client you have. So you have to find this balance in terms of the things that you need to do in the daily basis versus the things that you have to do with every single client in the different problematic they have.
Yeah. And what's the drivers? So is one of the drivers the environmental impact that what we're doing, or is it the money for the organization? What do you think the drivers are?
Well, if we talk of, if I try to answer this question, consider all my tenure in this energy management episode in my life, I can say that at the very beginning, the driver was 100% economic. Unfortunately, because from my perspective, is unfortunately, climate change have demonstrated that it's not a joke. So more and more organizations now are starting to think not just in business, not just in the ROI, are starting thinking that if they do something for the environment, they will keep their consumers, their clients, because they can demonstrate that they are willing to cooperate, to collaborate with this together with this. I don't know how to express this part, but they are collaborating in order to put their part in the whole solution. No?
Yeah,
put together all their efforts.
Yeah, to stamp their mark on the solution for climate change. I think that's what you're trying to say, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end, to be realistic, the economic part hadn't been put aside, but let's say that they are worried to keep an image
Yeah.
that they are doing something in order to communicate this image to the market,
Yeah.
to get a financial loan or to get certification. So behind all this sustainability and all this consciousness about climate change, as well, there is business, but no, not let's say, no, it's not so important that versus the very beginning of this way to the energy management part.
Yeah. Hector, we're seeing some significant energy crisis across Europe, and it's fluctuating out into the other parts of the world. Is this energy crisis that's come from the Ukraine and Russia conflicts, is that causing Mexico to be suffering for energy prices currently?
Well, unfortunately, the globalization had reconnect every single point, and that makes that when some country in the other world, in the other part of the world, is struggling, that we know now with the war, uh, all the markets are affected because
Yeah.
there are a lot of speculation. So this war problem, uh, from seen from Mexico City, is as well affecting because government is doing some adjustments even in the gas and gasoline price in order to avoid the inflationary effect that all the world is suffering because of this war.
Yeah. Hector, on this subject of the energy in Mexico, what is the split regarding gas, fossil fuels, and renewables? Do you know them figures roughly?
Well, unfortunately, our country has a very, very low percentage of renewable energy.
Mm-hmm.
We depend, we still depending a lot of gas and petroleum in order to produce our energy. Unfortunately, as well, our government hasn't demonstrated that they are worried about it. They are more concerned to produce more gasoline, how to depend less of the gasoline we import from US.
Mm-hmm.
So now, uh, let's say the renewable or green energy is not in the government radar as a priority. Unfortunately, that's the reality here in
Yeah, yeah.
Mexico.
It's a shame. Can you see that changing in the future?
Probably, Paul, but that depends of the politicians' mindset. If they
Yeah,
not change, hardly the other things
yeah.
will change.
Okay, well, it just means for you, Hector, you need to put more focus on energy management and let's reduce that demand and bring those figures down. So you've got a bigger job to do.
Yeah, that's why uh, in Mexico and I would say Latin America, energy management has been getting more and more relevance
Right.
because when the government take off the 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 stimulus that they are implementing to the gasoline price, for example,
Mm-hmm.
uh, everybody will be struggling with the energy prices. Now the tariffs have been increased but the incremental amount, let's say, having small, have been very, very few. So the necessity to do this energy management projects that we are talking about all day, all the time, have been getting more relevance, and it's the best time in order to spread the knowledge. It's the best time to propose energy management projects that can help industries, commerce, tourism, in order to be more efficient. And overall, to collaborate, to cooperate in order to avoid this climate change effect that we are suffering all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. So Hector, it's come to that time in the podcast where I'd like to put you on the spot, and you've been amazing as a guest today. You always say to me your English isn't very good, but your English is excellent, Hector. You've done a sterling job today, so thank you very much for sharing some of the backgrounds into your country and what you're doing. But for the benefit of our audience today, is there anything you can give back as a takeaway?
Well, Paul, I would like to say first, thank you for inviting me. If I can leave something here that could be useful for the audience that you have and you are incrementing day a day, is that understand your client, smell your client operations. It's a key factor, as well as the metering that you do. If you try to imagine that the knowledge of the operation, it's a layer in a map, and the data from sensors that you get is another layer. When you overlap these layers together, the information that you get, it's tremendous, because you can identify how, when, why, how many, how much your client do with all the stuff that they have to operate. So here the message is, you cannot just meter and get the data. You have to go deep and to understand clients' operation, to operate together with them, if this is the case, in order to understand their perspective and mix the information, your experience, the knowledge that you have, in order to provide them the solution that requires in order to get the results that they are looking for.
Exactly. We need that data, but not only do we need the data, but we need the information from the client to tell us how they're using that data. And I love the way you said layers. Each piece of data is yet another layer of information that we can then use to take forward. It's a very poignant point regarding what we do as energy experts, reviewing the organization and then using that information to start realigning and then reducing and then reporting back. They're key points in what we do. So Hector, I am very, very honored to meet you from day one. And I can't believe we spoke to each other probably a couple of weeks ago and we said we do this, and everything fell into place. That first interview we had, I don't even think I knew how to use Zoom when I spoke to you the first ever time. It was amazing. We need to keep in more contact. I've got some good news for you. We're actually translating my training and books into Spanish, so we can share more information to Mexico and support you going forward.
Okay, count on me if you need some help. for sure I can give you a hand in order to facilitate things with the translation.
Brilliant. Well, you're our ambassador in Mexico, and you'll always will be. So, Hector, thank you very much again, and it's a real honor. And please, you and your family, stay safe in these times.
Thanks, Paul. It's a pleasure to be together with you, working in the same target, to be
Brilliant.
and to become enterprises more efficient.